Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Real Stories of Success. I'm here with Austin Lahr today. We are several weeks into the Corona thing right now, and everybody's working through in the real estate market. Austin is still crazy, actually. Things have not stopped at all. What's going on your side of the table, man?
Yeah, even with most lenders out there kind of tightening up their requirements, it's interesting that our business is probably 3 to 4 times the amount of normal buyers we have, and that's a little bit due to rate, but it's also a little bit due to maybe our stance in not raising credit requirements as high as others, and so we're getting a lot of opportunities out there that we didn't necessarily have with some referral partners that we didn't ever necessarily have, and we're pretty grateful for that right now. Ryan, how about you guys? What's it looking like on the street?
Well, it's a little different. It's certainly a little bit more challenging. Things have fallen through in some cases, but overwhelmingly, we just got the March numbers for here in Indianapolis yesterday, and sales were actually up in March across the board. Average sales price went up almost 2% from what it was last month. So things are
Wow.
definitely still driving forward in a very positive direction. We've certainly seen some slowdowns in showings. And, I think those numbers will probably take a little bit more of a hit here in April. But nevertheless, there's still people buying homes. Life does not stop because of what's going on right now. And it's super exciting to see. I think there's a lot of people that are a little scared what's going on. But ultimately, I think those that are hunkering down and doing the work right now, it's going to pay dividends here in a month or two. So
Yeah, that's really good to hear, man. Yeah, everybody out there, keep your head up, keep grinding. A lot of us, there won't be as many of us on the other side of this, and that honestly isn't the worst thing in the world. So don't ever want to see anyone lose their job, but it does tend to hurt a little bit, and I would say keep grinding out there, guys. Keep grinding.
That's it. So, Austin, we've got an amazing guest on with us that has about a 30-year career in all things real estate right now. And she's done some amazing, amazing work throughout her career. So who are we talking to today, Austin?
Yeah, so we have one of my absolute favorites. I've known Diana for a decade plus, and Diana Rice-Wilkerson, like you said, 30 years in the industry. I mean, how many other people can actually say 30 years in the industry? And what's really interesting that I think a lot of our audience is going to take from this is she doesn't necessarily go for that really high loan amount. It's low to moderate income households that she's really helping, and that gives a lot of satisfaction in helping serve that market. And what's really really impressive that I think most people out there, it's 100 units a year plus for decades now, right? So many fun things to learn. Thanks, Diana, for being on with us.
It is my pleasure. Good morning.
So, Diana, let's kind of start at the beginning, if you don't mind. Like, let's rewind the tape here a little bit, going back to when you first got into this industry. Tell us about that. What was going on in your life? What made you make the decision that you want to start helping people with their real estate needs and mortgage lending needs? Tell us about that.
Absolutely. That started, I'm going to say, probably maybe in the late 70s. And I was working on the retail side of the bank at the time, Indiana National, which now has morphed into Regions Bank. And I was in the front office making loans for automobiles and personal loans and things of that nature. At that time in banking, there was typically one person at the bank that was responsible for making mortgages, and that was based on who inquired about a mortgage. Most of the time, that was always a client of the bank. And this lady had held that position, I'm going to say, for probably 25 years. She was retiring, and I was approached to take over her position. Quite frankly, I didn't even know how to spell the word mortgage. I didn't know how to pronounce the word, but I was agreeable to it because, okay, I'm already there. It's one more thing. I was excited to learn. So that's how I actually started the business. During that time in my role, my job was to take the application. We actually typed out the verifications of employment, mailed those out. I did a lot of the processing function, and I also handle the closings.
I love that. So it sounds like you got some incredibly well-rounded experience just, right out of the gate once you were going here. And I love the fact you had to mail applications. That this makes me chuckle every time.
It was pretty different than it is now, but it was a lot of detail, a lot of fun. It was a different type of loan. So more commas and zeros that I was typically dealing with when I was making an automobile loan or a personal loan. But that's how I got started.
Absolutely love that.
So Diana, tell us about these 100 units a year. How, if you were talking to our audience and maybe people are starting or just, maybe they're a couple years into their career and they're looking at you and they're like, 30 years of 100 units. How the heck? Tell them, like, how are you doing that? What would you say are the keys to your success?
Okay, well, thank you for that question. Keys to my success: a lot of prayer. My work, I feel, is a ministry. That started while I was at the bank, and eventually I evolved out of the position I was in into the manager of ops, which included underwriting. And while in underwriting, we were audited by one of the federal agencies, found that we were not lending to low, moderate income families, and we were challenged with developing a program in order to do that. And so that really started my love for serving this particular market. After a while, I ended up making some changes. I moved to INHP as their director of mortgage programs. Eventually went to Huntington Bank. And when I was at Huntington Bank, I had the opportunity to appear on a radio show as a guest to talk about mortgage finance. And after appearing on that show, me and my real estate partner got together, approached the radio station about educating home buyers about what was going on in the marketplace, because at that particular time, there was a lot of predatory lending and that sort of thing going on. That really raised the awareness, I would say, of in terms of what some of the products that the community I was serving, some of the products that they were actually grabbing a hold of, they were not really serving them well. They started calling and asking questions. And really right now, I'm kind of seen as the go-to person for questions around anything mortgage. And that's kind of gotten me where I am with the 100 units a year. Probably could do a lot more. And I'm building a team right now to hopefully do that. But that's kind of how I got started, going down that path.
Absolutely love that. And, you're obviously serving, a community of people that, definitely have some needs. And the fact that you're taking, an educational role to that, I think that's something that's so missing in the world right now. And, I've had so many conversations, with homeowners that, will literally say, why am I hearing, being 30 some years old, why am I hearing about credit for the first time from a real estate agent? And I think there's such a lack of education that exists out there for homeowners and, or, people that are wanting to, get into a home. And so what is it about that? Because I absolutely love that, and sometimes that's a little bit more work, but like Austin said to open the show, I think it's incredibly gratifying to help somebody that didn't think that they could do this at all and help them, literally hand them the keys and, just, you see tears sometimes. And I absolutely love that. So where'd that come from? Kind of tell me about that. Obviously it came with this challenge of creating this program way back when, but tell me about that the more you dove into it.
Well, I think it started with my own personal story. I did not understand credit myself. Thought I did. I actually thought it was just about paying off the debt, or paying, if you make an obligation, pay it off. And so what I did was, so guys, this is amazing, but my first credit account was a department store credit card. And so I had $100 limit and I thought I was big time. So anyway, I used it, of course, and I charged up all the clothes that it would let me buy. And then they sent me a monthly statement, right, with a payment amount. And I'm at the bank now. I'm at the bank working, okay? I'm guiding and coaching other people. And then I would just put the statement aside because I didn't have time to make the payment. So then when I made the payment, I would say the payment was like $10. And then I would wait till the next month, okay, I'll pay it. And then I would pay an additional amount, right? Now, in my mind, I've paid this ahead, okay? And of course, when the statement continues to come to say, hey, you're past due, because on a credit card, you have to pay each month. Who knew that? I paid this ahead. I ignored it. I said, okay, well, they'll figure it out, right? Wow. And so it was mismanaging the payment on that credit card because I did not know how it worked, and some other things that helped me understand that people just don't know. And if there were credit scores at the time, mine would not have been good. And that's a true statement. I was being promoted at the bank to officer position, one of the things that happened at the bank, and thank God for that journey, one of the things that happened was, especially when you became an officer, is they ran your credit and looked into your finances. Each year, that was just an automatic type of thing. And I was being promoted for the first time into an officer position. My manager at the time approached me and said, "Hey, Diana, we pulled your credit, and not bad, but you've got to tighten up on making sure you pay every month." And he's the one that explained to me how a credit card worked. Wow. And it was from that particular experience that, I would say that's what took me on my journey to knowing how to manage credit. And I also understood that a lot of people just didn't know. And that's true today.
That is such an amazing story. I can 1,000%. My story almost echoes that. And, when you're 18, 19 years old and they give you a credit card, and that credit card doesn't come with a rule book, right? It doesn't, there's nobody that's calling to coach you and walk you through this, right? And it's like you just kind of figure it out as you go. So the fact that, you took a negative experience and now you basically have turned that into your life's mission to help other people, not experience that same thing, or maybe help them get out of that. I absolutely love that. That's so cool. So thank you for doing that work. That's awesome.
Hey, Diana, you know what I wanted the audience to hear, which I love that you do. You kind of mentioned it earlier, but talk to us about the radio show. Kind of where you started, how you're doing it, where people can listen, what things do you guys talk about on your radio show?
Okay, great. So around 2000, it had to be 7 or 8, I want to say, 2007 or 8. An attorney who I had helped finance her home, she co-hosted a radio show called Legally Speaking on 1310 AM. And that particular station is a gospel station. On Saturday mornings, however, they have a lineup of talk shows: Medically Speaking, Legally Speaking, Unity in the Community. And for this particular broadcast, they wanted to talk about real estate because there was just a lot of buzz going on about buying a home and real estate and that sort of thing. So me and my real estate partner, we went to the show and we answered questions. Well, the phone just blew up. I mean, we started talking about real estate and started talking about finance, and the phone just blew up with calls and folks with questions. After the show, we stopped into the director's office and just proposed to him that we would like to do a radio show. And it was all about educating the community. It was not about promoting ourselves. And we have stayed true to that mission. And it was around the fact at that time, the predatory loans. I'm not a person to say a loan is good or bad. I would rather just educate folks on how it works, and then they can make the decision. But there were all kinds of loans being offered, and I understood that for my community, we think in terms of payment. Can I make the monthly payment? And so the payment was selling the product, the house, but after a year or two, then the payment maybe doubled or it increased significantly beyond what they could afford. And then the next thing you know, you're looking at foreclosure. So we felt like, okay, let's just at least talk about how the programs are designed, answer questions around those programs, and keep it moving. And that's how we started. And while we were doing the show, anytime credit came up, if one person called and asked a question, I mean, we could have a guest on. Let's say we had appraisers in the studio. We're going to talk about appraised value. If somebody called up and asked a question about credit, we never got back to the appraiser because the phone blew off the hook about credit. And so it just proved that the community was just really needing this type of information, whether it's credit, whether it's the home buying process. And every week we try to bring a professional or have a discussion about the process that keeps it real with people. I've always paid for that show for the most part, because we want to be able to say what we want to say. We don't want anyone telling us what not to say, because we have to keep it real with the community. And so that's what we do.
Where now? So you didn't tell us where can people hear you and how often can they hear you? When's it on?
Okay, it's 1310 AM. It's on Saturday from 1 to 2, and that is also simulcast at 92.7 FM.
Okay.
Actually, I'm making
Love
that,
that.
writing that down. I want to check that
Yeah.
out. So you said something there. Obviously, we do a podcast, which is not a radio show, but it's our smaller version of that. And I am, was one. I'm super fascinated by media, and getting, using things like radio, television, podcast to get your message out there, and just help change lives.
Yeah.
That's the reason why Austin and I do this show, is we want to help encourage and inspire other people that are in this industry to live their best life and do it on
Right.
their terms. And I love that you do that. So kind of circle back a little bit, if you don't mind, and tell us about getting started with that radio show. Because I know a lot of people, myself included in this, maybe I'm asking this selfishly here, but how'd you get that started? What was the conversation? Because I know a lot of people would like to maybe do something like what you are doing. How do
Yeah.
you get started with that? You mentioned that there was some cost associated with it. You mentioned that you had to go talk to the producer and the director, but kind of walk people through that path of getting your show on the air, and then maybe how you even come up with some different topics, if you don't mind.
It truly is a God story, in all honesty. It's like we just fell into it. It's like you can't mess up. And so when we went to talk to the director, this probably was the key. When we talked to the program director that day, first time meeting him, we said, hey, introduced ourselves. We really would like to do a show that is talking about mortgage finance and credit. And he said this. He said, do you know what? He said, my grandmother raised me. She told me about how not to become a dad prematurely. Very important to get my education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But she never told me about credit. I personally have lived that nightmare. And I know this information would be important. And I think that is key. It was important to the station. It was important to the director. He felt it, he understood it, and he understood the importance to our community. And so that's how that works. So I think you've got to make a connection. This is a radio station that already was bringing critical information to the community. Legally speaking, it was a talk show about anything legal, law. Okay, medically speaking, anything healthcare or health related. So this fit right within what they were trying to do. And then he had a personal connection to what we were talking about. So I think that's important. We actually started with 30 minutes. And I would come in real prepared with a big notebook of stuff that I was going to cover in 30 minutes. My partner would laugh at me, of course. It was almost like we went in, we sat down, we answered a couple of questions, the phone rang off the hook, and 30 minutes had gone.
It's gone.
So we could actually do a 2-hour show right now. There's no doubt about it, And so we then went to an hour, but it really was, personally, this is just a personal opinion, because I don't know, I'm telling you it's a God story, but there was already a commitment from the station to the community to educate the community on things that were very important: law, health, things that were going on in the community. The financial piece just aligned with everything else that they were trying to do. And so
I love that. Speaking of serving that community, let's talk about that, because in this lending environment, things are tightening up a bit, right?
Yeah.
So this show will actually air probably a month from now, but we're in the middle of COVID-19 and what that's doing to the markets, and we're seeing most lenders raise their credit scores requirements, and a lot of the down payment assistance programs aren't as easy or gone, and that kind of thing. So how are you dealing with that? What's kind of your strategy there?
My strategy, quite frankly, to be honest, is maybe adding another hour to the show and talk about credit, because credit is getting ready, and probably is not going to change. It is critically important at this point to raise those credit scores. And, we deal with credit every day, Austin. So we know that a lot of reasons that folks' credit scores may not be where they think they should be are little things. Managing that credit card correctly, opening up a credit card, getting rid of those medical collections, and, a few steps and you're into you're at a 700 score and you can qualify for that loan. So my focus now is going to be a lot more on credit, and that should help the community be more aligned with the rules that are going to be coming out and staying out when it comes to getting a mortgage.
Very cool. Very cool. How do you see, obviously, as Austin was just saying, and you echoed that, things have definitely tightened up, and there's going to be, more of a demand on, getting credit scores up. How have you guys maybe, done anything as far as creating more awareness? Obviously, you're already doing the radio show, which is huge, but what else are you maybe doing to get your name out there and let people know that this is my mission, this is what I'm doing, either from a marketing standpoint or just word of mouth? How are you doing that, if you don't mind sharing?
Brian, I don't. I'm sorry to say. But hey, listen, I'm looking at social media. I've put my toe in the water a couple of times and put a couple of things out on Facebook. That is a whole new world for me. But in all honesty, it's a must do. And so I'm talking to some people that can help me do that, because I do a lot of talking and coaching and working on loans. And so that posting things on Facebook and having different accounts and things of that nature, I just think that's critically important. I think that is the best way to get your name out there. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm exploring.
For sure. I think a lot of our audience too would love to hear from someone that has been in the industry for 30 years. What would you tell somebody starting out, or maybe that's a year and a half in right now? What would you tell them as they get going?
You've got to be made of something tough. I mean, you have to be a tough person. You may not even know how tough you are, but if it's something if this is what you feel you want to do, be prepared to give it your all. It's not something you can do halfway. And when I say give it your all, I mean study, talk to people who are successful, build those processes and procedures, organize yourself, and stick with it, and stay with and talk to people who will keep you encouraged as well, because this is the type of job or work or ministry that can really discourage you, particularly when things on the outside are happening that have a direct impact on your ability to execute or be successful. But it can happen, but you do have to be tough. You have to be tough, and you have to be committed to sticking with it.
I can 1,000% agree with what you just said. Makes perfect sense. So, yeah, this business can definitely throw you some curveballs from time to time, and your ability to weather the storm is definitely important. So, Diana, this has been so much fun. Tell everybody, how can they get a hold of you? If somebody wants to reach out and talk to you about the radio show, they want to reach out and just talk about credit or learn about that, or just learn more about your experience in this industry, how can people connect with you?
The best way to get a hold of me is my cell phone, which is 317-402-5555. Again, that's 317-402-5555. The other way that you can reach me is I have a scheduling website, www.talkwithdiana.com. www.talkwithdiana.com. There you can go and just set up an appointment for us to talk.
Beautiful, beautiful. I also need to know, how'd you get that phone number with 5555 at the end of it? That's pretty awesome.
That was my husband's cell phone. And I said, hey, I need that number because I need a number that folks can remember.
Right, right. Oh, I love that. I love that. So,
Diana, you truly are the best. Such a professional, such an inspiration to so many people in this industry. And not only do I appreciate you coming on, but I love working with you every day. And thanks so much for being a guest.
Thank you. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Diana. Hope you have a great day. So everybody, that is going to wrap up the latest edition of the Real Stories of Success podcast with Ryan and Austin. So we definitely hope everybody has a fantastic day and stay safe out there. Thanks so much.
Stay safe, guys.
Bye-bye.